Hey there, it is Faith Talk Live. I'm Rick Probst.
And I'm Dan Radcliffe.
Hey, what a pleasure to talk with Hermann Eben, founder of Great Relationships, restoring marriages and relationships. Hermann, how are you?
Excellent. Thank you. Really appreciate being on with you guys today.
Well, it's good to have you.
Before we went live, I usually ask the guest, or Dan asked, how are you doing? And Hermann said, not fair to Midland,
Nope.
not better than I should be. But he said excellent, which is not a common response. Hermann, why? Why excellent?
Well, it changes my mind about how my life is going. There's no reason for me as a believer to not be excellent. It doesn't mean my situation is excellent. It just means that my mind is in the excellent area because I have a creator God that's taking care of me. Why should I not be excellent?
There you go.
I love that. I love that answer because that doesn't mean it's not like a false, what was the one we had worked with a guy and every time you would ask him, he would say, I can't remember what he used to say, but it was something that was like, no, really, tell me how you're really doing. But I love what you said. Your circumstances may be the same, but because of a believer, we are excellent. Mm-hmm. Love that. Well, let's talk a little bit about great relationships. What is it that you guys do? How come you do it?
Well, we do it because you can go on our website and see under about us, about Louis and I's testimony, how we ran into a situation that most people would think would result in divorce. And over time, the Lord has given us the ability to create information that helps relationships. And it's what I call a radical relationship because it has nothing to do with the way the other person is living their life. It has everything to do with the way God instructs me to live my life. And that's the idea behind what we're talking about in our current marketing and everything we're presenting. You know, the idea is pursuing their best. Our definition of love is pursuing their best patiently, kindly, sacrificially, and unconditionally. And we believe that fits exactly the way God relates to us. At the same time, we have freedom, meaning I'm free to be a jerk, and you're free to be a jerk. But even if you're a jerk, I am called by God to pursue your best patiently, kindly, sacrificially, and unconditionally. That's the essence of how we talk about all these things. Got a tremendous number of resources out there, and would love for you to just look at the free courses. Everything on the website is free. It's in a pay it forward model. If you get some benefit, great.
One of the resources that you talk about is the blog, and you said you just have a new blog on talking about difficult conversations, but done right. Talk a little bit about that because we all hate difficult conversations, and as much as we can, I at least stay away from them. So how do you do them right?
Yeah, it's so interesting. I love Galatians 6:1-5. Most people have probably heard that. Most people have probably understood or have maybe heard a sermon on it, but it's the last part of that particular set of verses that's really important. But let's deal with family issues. Let's start there. Actually, typically what we call family gatherings in the holidays is turkey and stressing.
I like that.
Because most of the time when you gather, there's unresolved issues, right? There's unresolved issues, and those unresolved issues create difficulty to have a decent conversation sometimes with other individuals. And that's another blog that we have online is that turkey and stressing. You can just look for that. But when you do need to have a difficult conversation with somebody, Galatians 6:1-5 is critical because the way we look at this is you go to a brethren with any trespass. And the way you think about trespass, it's not your opinion that they're doing something wrong. They're violating God's word in some form or fashion. It's chapter and verse. Have a chapter and verse about what's going wrong. Be spirit-led. Obviously, it just got through talking about walking with the Spirit, walking and having the fruit of the Spirit in your life. and restore someone. This is not about you trying to tell them how the cow eats the cabbage. This is about you walking into a conversation with the thought, I really do want what's best for them. And that leads to the next thing, gentleness and fulfilling the law of Christ. So all of that is, I mean, there's so much that needs to be considered with all of that. But the last part, fulfilling the law of Christ, is love. So I'm either going to them with a clear understanding that they are doing something wrong. I'm having an attitude of restoration and gentleness, and I'm going to pursue their best and share the information with them. Now, why don't we end up having these difficult conversations? Let's pose that before I go further.
Yeah.
Why do you think we don't have these difficult conversations?
Because they're uncomfortable. We don't want to stir up the pot.
Yeah.
Exactly. There's what we call emotional conflict. We have some form of conflict. Oh man, they're not going to take that well, or I just don't really want to do it. There's this emotional conflict that prevents the words from coming out of your mouth to try to restore with gentleness and pursue their best. And God, through the wonderful example of Jesus Christ, didn't back up from saying hard things to people. The problem with us when we do these difficult conversations, we don't do it with the right attitude that we see in verses 1 through 3. But there is a tremendous benefit to looking at verses 4 and 5, actually 3, 4, and 5. And let me read those to you. Not considering, I'll just read the whole thing. Brethren, if a man is overtaken in trespass, you who are spiritual, restore such a one in a spirit of gentleness, considering yourself, lest you also be tempted. We've heard all of that. That's really powerful and very good stuff. Listen to the rest of this. Bear one another's burdens and so fulfill the law of Christ. Well, we talked about that. I am to pursue your best and help bear your burden. Now look where it goes. It seems like it goes off in a different tangent. For if anyone thinks himself to be something when he is nothing, he deceives himself. Wow, what is that talking about? But let each one examine his own work, and then he will have rejoicing in himself alone and not in another. For each one shall bear his own load. There's a very important thing that I discovered when I first started counseling people, and it fits that statement. For if anyone thinks himself to be something when he is nothing, he deceives himself. So if you're going into a difficult conversation and you think that you're all that in a bag of chips, and you're getting ready to share the truth with them, and I know that I can persuade them to do what's right, you're going into it with the wrong attitude because you're thinking this is about you.
Yeah, that's good.
This isn't about you. This is about them. And when you, in a counseling situation, go into it thinking that you have to help people, I tell people all the time, I don't have to help you. And why do you think I say that? That sounds awful. Well, I say it because I know myself that if they change, I'm going to take the credit. If they don't, I'm going to take the blame. No, this isn't about me. This is about them. And that's the reason why it says, if anyone thinks himself to be something when he is nothing, he deceives himself. But let each one examine his own work. Okay, they didn't respond very well. I had this difficult conversation with them. They didn't respond very well. Let each one examine his own work. But did I do what God asked me to do? See, I'm going to examine my own work. Did I go into this with the intent of the heart to try to change them? Or did I go into this because God asked me to do this? That's a vastly different statement, vastly different question, isn't it? And then notice how it ends. And then he, meaning you, who had the courage and God's prodding to go talk to them, will have rejoicing in himself alone. That is not a me flashing moment. That is a, Lord, thank you that you encouraged me to do what's right, because one day in the future, I'm going to stand before you and you're going to ask me about this.
Wow. That's so good.
I'm going to rejoice in the fact that I did what you asked me to do. And then it ends with, for each one shall bear his own load. And if they don't change, that's between them and God.
Yeah.
I did what God asked me to do. I'm going to bear that load, and they're going to bear their own load. So that's what we talk to people about when it's a difficult conversation. The intent of your heart, is it to be gentle? Is it to be restorative? Is it to pursue their best? And are you doing this because God is asking you to, or because you think that you are all that in a bag of chips and you're going to get them to change?
Wow.
Yeah.
Herman, that is so good. That's good stuff. Hermann Eben, you can check it out. Great Relationships, Restoring Marriages and Relationships. Go to, let me see if I can find it here, greatrelate.com. Check out the blogs and the podcasts and everything that's there.
Now, Herman, do you have your recipe for turkey and stressing on the website as well?
I know one thing.
We do have that blog out.
Okay. Okay.
After talking with Herman today, I'm not going to tell people how the cow ate the cabbage. I promise I won't do that anymore. Hermann Eben. Hey, Herman, we would love to have you back on in the spring. Let's talk about some more stuff. We want people to go to your website. That's great. That's GR8 relate.com. Check it out. Let's take a break. We'll be right back. I'm Rick Probst.
And I'm Dan Ratcliffe.
This is Faith Talk Live.